instance are not very good. I was there in the office talking to the administrative secretary of the region that we make sure that we help those courts to be similar, not like this, but at least not like this, but at least a little similar. If you go and say, here I enter the court.
Ndani na nje imezingatia pia Mheshimiwa Jaji Mkuu mahitaji.
Internal and external special needs have also been taken into account. Chief Justice, as you can see in front, there are 2 ramps of our colleges to climb. Honorable Chief Justice, the cost of the building, to beginning with, this building is 726.9 million shillings, but the same building is 740 million shillings.
The 2 courthouses will bring services close to the people who previously had to travel for a distance of more than 40 kilometers for the service. The Vice President, Dr. Philip Mpango, arrived in Mbeya for a one-day visit where he is expected to launch annual water board meeting and campaign for the plantation of water sources-friendly trees around water bodies. A story by Adolf Mbata, read by Yesero Mafuru.
The Vice President, Dr. Philip Mpango, arrived in Mbeya today for a one-day visit. Speaking to journalists on behalf of the Regional Commissioner of Mbeya, Juma Omera, the Mbeya District Commissioner, Dr. Rashid Chwachua, says while in Mbeya, the Vice President will launch the campaign for planting more than 2 million trees around the Nzove water resource.
Jambo la kwanza kutakuwa na kupanda miti rafiki.
The first thing will be the planting of trees at the water resources. As I said, the official gesture of the Vice President tomorrow morning will start the activity by launching this national tree planting campaign in the area of our Nzove resource, right there at the bottom of the Rukwa River Valley tomorrow morning. He will do the launching and then he will greet the people before going to the launch of the special meeting. Secondly, there will be signing of the ministerial declaration on the conservation of water resources. Third, launching catchment conservation plan in the country is called the catchment conservation plan.
On the other hand, the Director for Water Resources, George Rugomera, says the launch will go hand in hand with the awareness program about the protection of water resources to ensure availability of water all through the year, despite the effects of climate change.
Ukichanganya pia mabadiliko ya tabia nchi ambayo naye yanaongeza kuathiri upatikanaji wa maji.
If you combine the change in the country behavior, which in turn affect the availability of water, in order to increase the availability of water, it is by building technical structure such as dams, so that during the monsoon, the rains are high and the water goes to the sea or to the lakes in main rivers instead of the sea or the major rivers. So we can harvest in the areas where people are and they can use them during the summer.
This year's motto is Sustainable Conservation for Water Resources for Economic Growth and Better Society. Esero Mafuru, TBC.
Members from the Eastern and Southern Africa Water and Sanitation Regulatory Authorities are meeting in Zanzibar to find solution of ending water and sanitation challenges in member states. From Zanzibar, Swaumu Mavura reports.
Annual General Meeting of Eastern and Southern Africa Water and Sanitation Regulatory Association, ESAWAS, brought together members from more than 40 countries to discuss different issues on water supply and sanitation regulation across African countries.
After a long discussion, you have finally decided that Zanzibar would be your appropriate place for the conference. Zanzibar position, conducive environment, and much more, a role and a contribution to the Indian Ocean civilization merit to be the right place for this conference.
The current ESAWAS strategic plan, which spans from 2022 to 2024, includes an objective to strengthen and expand the African continental reach of ESAWAS.
Deputy Minister of Water, Energy and Mineral from the Revolutionary Government of Zanzibar, Shabani Ali Othman, says the platform is where members have an opportunity to share knowledge and experience on water supply and sanitation management that will raise sectors' accountability.
It is through this conference and a similar platform that we get an opportunity to learn, adopt and share practice that enhance regulation and ultimately service delivery.
During the opening remarks, Second Vice President of Zanzibar, Hemed Suleiman Abdullah, says government will continue to strengthen the water and sanitation regulatory mechanism by building Zura's capacity on sanitation regulations.
Changing the narrative for water supply and sanitation regulatory across Africa strengthens sectors' accountability. This slogan has come at the right time when the countries in the world are struggling to achieve the World Sustainable Development Goals (SDGs), and specifically Target 6, which aim to improving access to water supply and sanitation service for all.
During the meeting, the report of Water Supply and Sanitation Regulatory Landscape in Africa was launched, which provide an overview to the status of water supply and sanitation regulation across Africa. So, Mavura, TBC, Zanzibar.
On to the next one. The world's population has reached 8 billion people today, representing a milestone in human development. According to the United Nations projection report released today, the global demographic report shows Africa is still the young continent. Faida Ngaga has more details.
The UN Population Prospect 2022 report highlights on 10 key issues that will affect the world and the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs. On population growth, the report indicates that the world's population continues to grow, but the pace of growth is slowing down. Among them is Tanzania. In 2020, the growth rate of the global population fell under 1% per year for the first time since 1950. The latest projections by the United Nations suggest that the world's population could grow to around 8.5 billion in 2030 and reach 9.7 billion in 2050. And it is projected to reach a peak of around 10.4 billion people during the 2080s and to remain at that level until 2100. The world's population is projected to reach 8 billion on the 15th of November 2022. And India is projected to surpass China as the world's most populous country in 2023. In Tanzania, the 2022 National Population and Housing Census report indicates that there are currently 61.7 million people in the country, an increase from the former 44.9 million people in 2012. Other notable issues in the report is a rising share of population in the working ages that can help boost economic growth per capita. In most countries of sub-Saharan Africa, as well as in parts of Asia and Latin America and the Caribbean, the share of population at working ages between 25 and 64 years has been increasing. This shift in the age distribution provides a time-bound opportunity for accelerated economic growth per capita, known as the demographic dividend. The UN Prospect 2022 report suggests in order to maximize the potential benefits of a favorable age distribution, countries should invest in the further development of their human capital by ensuring access to healthcare and quality education at all ages and by promoting opportunities for productive employment and decent work. Global life expectancy at birth fell to 71.0 years in 2021, down from 72.8 in 2019 due to mostly the impact of the coronavirus disease pandemic. On population data, they provide critical information for use in development planning. The report advises countries and development partners to give priority to the ongoing round of the national population censuses, as such data provides critical information to inform development planning and to assess progress towards the achievement of the SDGs. Faida Ngaga, TBC.
The National Bank of Commerce, NBC, and United Nations Capital Development Fund, UNCDF, have signed an agreement for establishment of special bond, namely Tanga Uwasa Water Bond, set to raise fund for the upgrade of Tanga municipal water supply infrastructures. Speaking after the signed agreement, Director of Corporate and Investment Bank, NBC, James Meitaron, and Head of UNCDF, Tanzania, Peter Maliki, says the fund will help to solve water shortage in Tanga municipality.
Subscribers of the bond are expected to be a mix of retail as well as institutional investors, and we expect that even the people of Tanga are welcome to actually invest the money as retailers in the bond, and we will open our branch in Tanga to make sure that they are able to go there and subscribe to this bond, meaning that other than raising the funding for the projects in Tanga, we expect people also to invest in the bond because it's a revenue generating opportunity for individuals.
The Minister of Finance, the Minister himself, signed a mandate letter to make sure that we collaborate with the government to make sure that this kind of expertise, this kind of transactions, the alternative finance initiatives to finance development, they take place in Tanzania. So we really thank the government for being behind us and being our partner in doing this together.
Tanga Urban Water Supply and Sanitation Authority Director Geoffrey Healy says population growth and implementation of strategic national projects like the East African Crude Oil Pipeline and Tanga Port need sufficient and sustainable water supply.
Is going also very fast in Tanga, so the water demand grows very fast. So we came to realize that we need to do major investment instead of going little by little every year. So this bond issuance, sub-treasury bond, will assist us to get more money, a lot of money, to do something tangible for the water supply in Tanga.
Coal miners from Jombe, Songwe, Mbeya and Ruvuma region have been urged to form trade union to represent them on different platforms. News report by Noel Anjawa, read by Gloria Michael.
Minister of Minerals, Dr. Biteko, meets coal mine stakeholders from coal-rich regions in Tanzania. During the meeting, Minister Biteko urged the miners to establish trade union of coal miners in order to have collective thoughts on matters pertaining coal mining.
It's very important for you to establish your own trade union. If salt miners, gold miners and other business people have their own trade union, then why do coal miners work as individuals? You all must have your own trade union. That individualistic approach is not a good one.
Ruvuma Regional Commissioner Colonel Laban Thomas said on the first 4 months of fiscal year 2022-2023, Ruvuma region have collected 88% of the budgetary revenue from minerals.
Honorable Ministers, I'm so happy to tell you that Ruvuma region has been directed to collect 17 millions by the 11th of November this year. But Ruvuma region has been able to acquire 15 million Tanzanian shillings.
A Nigerian Minerals Committee Chair Danstan Kitandula applauds Minister initiative of meeting all miners in their respective groups and commended the act to be more solution-oriented.
Our belief is that such meetings are an easier and the fastest way to solve all the challenges that the mineral sector faces in order to get the right solutions.
Gloria Michael, TBC.
Another fascinating story tonight is Tanzania's storytelling industry has taken a huge step in production of wildlife and conservation films. This can be witnessed through the Mkomazi Rhino Guardian films produced by the award-winning storytellers from Tanzania, Ngotea Wild Production Company, and aired by Tanzania Safari Channel. This film has revealed the efforts towards conservation of black rhinos, which are endangered species in Africa. Here, it's a report by our very own Margaret Gedi.
Hifadhi ya Taifa ya Mkomazi ilianzishwa mwaka 2008. Hifadhi hii yenye ukubwa wa kilomita za mraba 3245 ilikuwa moja ya maeneo muhimu sana kwa uhifadhi wa faru.
This is a young industry in Tanzania, taken up by young professionals in wildlife and conservation storytelling. Hans Cosmas Ngotea is the director for the Mkomazi Rhino Guardians film, who emphasizes on conservation through filming.
Some of the reason that makes Mkomazi Rhino Guardian films to be unique is that, first of all, the whole of translocation that was done in the film was the first time to be done by Tanzanian fully, from GIX expert, from vet, from the person who died the rhino, from the person who operate the crates and move the rhinos around. They're fully Tanzanians, and that makes me feel very proud to be even the own Tanzanian filming that scenario over there. And another thing, as filmmakers, as conservationists as well, is that it's a great tool to educate young people, because many young people understand that wildlife conservation is only about being a ranger or a tour guide. They didn't understand about all these other professions. So we see that Mkomazi Rhino Guardians film will be used to educate students, to help them to choose different careers that they see they can choose in helping wildlife and in helping the conservation of wildlife in the country as well.
This film has showcased the great efforts of our wildlife caretakers in Mkomazi National Park in conserving and protecting the endangered rhino species.
Mradi huu ulianza na wanyama 4 kutoka hifadhi ya taifa ya Ado iliyoko nchini Afrika ya Kusini. Hata hivyo, idadi ya wanyama hawa ilikuja kuongezeka mpaka kufikia 15. Wanyama 11 waliletwa tena, 4 kutoka hifadhi ya taifa ya Ado nchini Afrika ya Kusini, na wengine walitoka katika zoo ya Port Limp iliyoko nchini Uingereza, na wengine walitoka kwenye zoo inaitwa Klarov Zoo iliyoko Jamhuri ya Czech. Hata hivyo, baada ya hapo sasa wanyama idadi yao iliendelea kuongezeka na kufikia zaidi ya 35 mwaka huu wa 2021.
The transfer of rhinos into the Rhino Tourism Sanctuary was the first ever translocation to be fully conducted by local Tanzanians. The purpose of this new sanctuary is to boost tourism in viewing these rare animals in Tanzania. Margaret Gedi, TBC.
Thank you, Margaret Gedi. That item concludes local news tonight. International news up next. And here is Nyambona Masamba with international news.
Hello, it's good to have you this evening. Here is the international news. Thousands of people are scrambling for surface this hour at the Congolese village of Kibati near the eastern city of Goma. They're trying to escape the conflict in the region between government troops and M23 fighters. The conflict between the military and M23 fighters is living close to the regional capital, Goma. Men, women and children are said carrying whatever they can, walking along the main highway towards the eastern city. UN troops are patrolling the streets, while the M23 fighters widening and are said to be backed by Rwanda, an allegation the Rwandese government denies. Despite billions of dollars spent on the UN, the largest peacekeeping mission, M23 fighters have continued to attack villages and seize territories for decades. It is one of more than 100 armed groups based in eastern DRC. They say they're fighting to defend the interests of ethnic Tutsi minority. Still in Africa, a jailed British-Egyptian activist has ended his hunger strike after more than 200 days. Alaa Abdel Fattah Famil say they have received a letter in his handwriting saying he's dropping fast and asked them to visit him in prison in Egypt. His relatives have been negotiating with the authorities to allow a visit. A pro-democracy Glober is serving 5 years sentence for cult spreading false news. To the Middle East, Israel forces says 3 Israel have been killed in attack in West Bank. Palestinian accused of incident has been shot dead. It happened in an area of Israel settlement. Meanwhile, Israel say U.S. has decided to launch an investigation into the killing of Al Jazeera journalist Shri Abu Akleh. Shrin was shot dead by Israel forces on the 9/11 when covering a raid in Jenin in the occupied West Bank. Israel military has since admitted that Israel gunfire may have killed her. Lastly, to Indonesia. The Russian foreign minister has accused Ukraine of dragging out possible resolution. Speaking to G20 summit in Bali, Sergei Lavrov alleged Ukraine has put forward unrealistic conditions for peace. Earlier, Ukraine's president told world leaders to press Russia to end what he called its aggression war. Nyambona Masamba, TBC, Dar es Salaam.
That was international news. Sport news up next. Now let's join Malio Cheto for sport news.
The Middle Eastern country of 2.8 million people comprises of mostly expertise qualified automatically as the host nation. The reigning Asian champions are ranking 50 in the world and are the first Arab nation to host the competition. In their run to lifting the Asian trophy, the country's first big football title, the Maroons conceded just 1 goal and beat the favorite and the 4-time champions Japan 3-1 in final. Leading the team from the dugout on home soil is the Spaniard Felix Sanchez, a former Barcelona youth coach. The Maroons have been busy preparing for the tournament, taking part in several competitions as they hope to make it past the group stage. Last year, Qatar beat Egypt on penalties to finish third in the FIFA Arab Cup hosted in Qatar capital Doha. In the semi-final, the Maroons lost 2-1 to eventually winners Algeria Desert Warriors, conceded a goal in 17 minutes of stoppage time. In 2019, Qatar was invited to take part in the Copa America, where they were placed in Group B with Argentina, who finished third, Colombia and Paraguay. The Maroons were eliminated in the first round after finishing bottom of their group with a single point after draw 2-2 with the Paraguay in the opening match. As the host nation, the Maroons will kick off the show with their match against the South Americans at the 6,000-seaters Al Bayat Stadium. The star of the team is the trick left winger Akram Afif. The 25-year-old is the 2018 Asian Footballer of the Year after his 1 goal and 10 assists lead the Qatar to the Continental Trophy. FIFA President Giovanni Infantino has made a direct plea to world leaders gathering in Indonesia for the 17th group of 20 G20 summit to call for ceasefire during the FIFA World Cup Qatar 2022 and to begin dialogue as a first step to bring the conflict in Russia and Ukraine to an end. Addressing the assembly head of the state at the Intergovernmental Forum, which comprises of 19 countries and the European Union, the FIFA president said, "Football is the force for good. We are not naive to believe that football can solve the world problems." Infantino said the main focus as the sports organization is and should be the sports. But because football unites the world, this particular FIFA World Cup, with the 5 billion people watching, it can be a trigger for a positive gesture, for sign, or a message of hope. The FIFA president's speeches recognized the current uncertainty in the world and identified the countries involved in the current conflict. Russia hosted the last World Cup in 2018, and Ukraine is bidding to host the World Cup in 2030. Current World Cup starting in 5 days can really be that positive trigger. He asks world leaders to think on temporary ceasefire for 1 month for the duration of FIFA World Cup, or at least the implementation of a humanitarian corridor, or anything that could lead to the reception of dialogue as the first step to peace. Infantino, speaking 5 days before the 22nd edition of the FIFA World Cup begins in Qatar, and the day after football global governing body launched the Football Unites the World campaign, in which a host of international stars joined the forces to illustrate football and reveal the ability to bring people together, a campaign that will run throughout the FIFA World Cup. He added that football means your people and your countries. It is about passion, it is about inclusion, and it is about tolerance. It is about non-discrimination, and it is about education. He said football is an investment in our children for our future. Football united the world, and because football united the World Cup is an occasion to bring people together in peace and joy, something deeply needed in turbulence time we live in. The FIFA World Cup Qatar 2022 kick off on Sunday, 20 November, which the host nation takes on Ecuador at Al Bayat Stadium. The tournament will end at Luciana Stadium, where the final will take place on Sunday, 18th December.
Thank you very much, Malio Cheto. And that marks the end of News Bulletin for tonight. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Kefa Gilo. Have a great evening.
Usikose kutazama TBC World Cup, 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 World Cup. Usikose kuangalia TBC World Cup inakuja. Baba. Bonge nyumbani.